Let's celebrate the magic of short stories and poems. They are truly magical, aren't they? They make us feel happiness, heartbreak, horror, hope, hatred, and so much more. Namaste, people. Welcome to Shweta's Basket, a weekly stories and poems podcast, and I'm your host, Shweta Singh. So the story that I have for you today is titled The Missing Piece. It is written by a very fine storyteller, Amrita Wadekar. The every night bedtime story ritual with her son made her realize her true calling. Now she has a Facebook page dedicated to the same under the banner of Teta Tale, where she regularly conducts activity-based storytelling sessions for children. The link to the page will be in the show notes. And it is this passion for storytelling that inspired her to write stories. She writes regularly for many online writing platforms and has contributed to a few anthologies. When not writing, Amrita is usually found lurking between the shelves at Kahani Box Library. Do check out the link in the show notes for more details about it. Amrita has a master's degree in HR, and this is her story, The Missing Piece. It was on top of an old bookcase covered with dust. Curiosity overtook Daniel as he touched the cardboard box. Life's Jigsaw Puzzle. Daniel read the words on top of the box. The letters were printed in red, but had now faded in some places. The rectangular box looked old. There was a thick layer of dust announcing that it was untouched for a long time. "Where did you find this?" snorted the shopkeeper as he looked at the dirty box. "Back in there," Daniel said, pointing to the unadorned bookshelf. It looked like it had washed up on the beach one day and the owner had picked and placed it in the store, just like all the other randomly picked and mismatched furniture. It was old, ordinary, and stood straight, hugging the wall in the corner of the store. The wood had scratches all over and appeared pale. Daniel had been surprised to see the puzzle box there, but he had been intrigued with its title. "I don't remember seeing it," the shopkeeper declared. "Whatever." Daniel shrugged as he placed the items from his cart on the billing belt. He paid for his purchase and left the market. It was late Sunday afternoon and Daniel had no plans. He fished around in his pocket for the keys to his red Mustang. The car had a personality of its own. A born dreamer, wild-spirited, it knew how to zoom, just like a bullet fired from a firearm. It hugged the tarmac, illuminating the onward road, slashing the wind and then disappearing in a blink. For Daniel, it was his pride. He threw in his purchase in the back seat, a seat that had seen long drives, loud music, crammed seats with his buddies. His friends were not perfect or neat, but they had enough love in their heart to fight and defend their gang. Yes, they were a gang of 4. Ron played killer guitar, whereas Willie was the owner of the most happening sports bar. And Giles, the entertainment journalist, was always surrounded by models. And then there was Daniel, the IT guy, passionate about cars. It was his first car, so naturally it held some good and some dark memories. The good ones, he replayed them like a tape over and over in his mind, hugging them to keep them alive with him forever. As for the dark memories, they never let him forget. But those weekends were now gone and lost forever. Daniel was alone and had nothing to do, so he made one last stop at the liquor store before heading home. Locking his car, Daniel climbed the front steps of his house. The house, dressed in pristine white, with French windows overlooking the clover lawn, was a thing of beauty. He and Giselle had handpicked the furniture, an indication of their love and togetherness. It had once seen more dancing shoes than a ballroom, where they all twirled, laughed, everyone with everyone, the music escaping from every open window. The radiant house was once full of color and warmth, but it was all grey now. A house gives you comfort, a sense of safety, and a feeling of belonging. You always want to come back to your abode after a long, tiring day to soothe your mind. Alas, amidst the posh furniture and the chic decor, a house only becomes a home when you add a real soul to it. Someone who waits for you at the door. Giselle, she was the soul of this home and his soulmate. But he prized the beer bottle open, brushing away the thoughts that fogged his mind as he put the puzzle box on the table. Its edges were carefully taped, so he was hopeful that all the pieces would be accounted for. As he lifted the cover of the box, "Oh, fish!" he muttered, pinching his nose to ward off the foul odor. A musty smell arose, announcing that the 1,000 tiny pieces had been there for a very long time. Even though the color was faded, the pieces looked in good condition, and he dumped the entire contents on the table to air them and pulled up a chair to sort them out. As he sipped his beer, he sorted the pieces according to their colors. They were all shades of oranges, flaming reds, deep blacks, and sunset yellow. Daniel started piecing together the border of orange and black from top left-hand corner. There were several black pieces with myriad shades of oranges. After a few, he could make out the setting sun hanging low over the horizon as it poured hot orange and red hues. It looked like a perfect circle. Its reflection over the river, a pot of molten lava. The picture was coming along, and he was getting excited. Looks like grass. Nah. I think it's leaves, he murmured as he began filling the top right-hand corner now. Soon, he realized it was a tree overlooking the river. There was something strange about this picture, but Daniel could not lay his finger on it. An eerie feeling seized him. Maybe it's the beer, he thought to himself as he looked at his half-empty beer crate. He kept going. Now he was at the bottom right-hand corner. This part of the puzzle was very dark. Few pieces hinted at an upright structure made of wood. Daniel continued to fill the border towards the bottom of the picture. It was getting dark outside as well. The wind blew with a vengeance. The curtains billowed, and the tiny pieces of chandelier tinkled in the dark, threatening to shatter. His back and neck now ached. He had been working on the puzzle for a few hours, and all the alcohol on his empty stomach was making him dizzy. With a pounding headache, he stood and staggered to switch on the lights, but they flickered, and the next moment abandoned the room to darkness. He swore. He lit a candle and placed it on the table next to the pieces. Unscrewing another beer, he got back to work. A few more pieces and the puzzle would be complete. And then... How can this be? He gasped, horrified, leaping from his chair. A chill rose up his spine as he stared at the picture. The fence, the sun, the swing dangling from the tree branch, and the two petite legs dangling from the swing as they swayed facing the setting sun. He was now staring at the picture. Suddenly, all sober. It was almost done. He was puzzled to see that only one piece remained, while 2 holes needed to be slotted. Apparently, the puzzle was incomplete. Daniel tried to knock the whole puzzle off the table, but the pieces flew up in the air, pausing for a second in midair as they slowly descended and rearranged themselves, completing the picture of a boy sitting on the swing. Daniel was now trembling with fear. The dreadful scene replayed in front of his eyes. It had happened 7 months ago. Zipping along the highway, bumping down country roads had been something that Daniel and his friends had loved. Beer in hand, and with the crumbs of nachos and chips decorating not just the map sprawled between them, but also the seat and the car floor, they had driven around with windows down and loud music blasting through them. Oh, it had been such a thrill. Willie had graciously supplied them with pills to add that extra fun. The red Mustang had cut through the wind and traveled faster than a bullet. It was getting dark, and then a sudden flash of light from the passing truck had blinded Daniel's vision, and the Mustang had spun out of control. It had skidded off the road with a screech and crashed into the makeshift wooden fence. The car had collided with the tree with a bang and had sent the boy flying from his swing straight into the fast-flowing river. The bonnet had popped open and had emitted smoke, fogging their view. Daniel had been sprawled on the steering wheel, oozing from his left temple. Ears still ringing from the crash, Daniel and his friends had dragged themselves out from the wrecked car. "Holy cow, what have you done?" Ron had accused as he had rounded on Daniel while desperately trying to cover his bleeding nose. They had escaped death with minor bruises. Did you see that? That boy, he flew like a bird. Shit, man, he flew like a bird. Giles couldn't finish the sentence as he had rushed towards the river to check on the boy. Guys, get hold of yourselves. It is a lonely road. No one is in view. With the truck gone, Willie had taken charge of the situation. "We just leave," he had declared. "Leave? You mean flee? What the hell are you suggesting?" Daniel yelled. "That boy is dead. Gone. In the river. No one else seems to be here." Willie had shaken Daniel. "Listen to me. We are drunk and high. We cannot report this. Our lives, our career, your wife. Think about Giselle. Everything will be finished, man. Everything." Willie was right. Or it was what they thought was right at that moment. They had been too scared to report the accident. It would have landed them all in prison for breaking numerous laws. For days, whenever they met, they would pretend that dark day did not exist. Each of them was fighting their own demons. Giselle had left him as she couldn't accept the fact that they had fled without even trying to help a hapless child. Daniel stared at the rearranged puzzle in horror. Only one piece was missing. The little boy had his back towards him. He must have been a 7-year-old kid. Merrily swinging, feeling the cool breeze on his innocent face. He possibly couldn't have known that it was going to be his last day on the swing. But ever so slowly, he turned around to meet Daniel's gaze through the puzzle. His eyes were bloodshot. He smiled slyly as he continued swinging, facing him now instead of the setting sun. At that moment, something damp touched the hem of Daniel's trousers. His gaze moved away from the puzzle. His shoes were soaked and there was water in the room. He was horrified. His head jerked up as he hastily scanned the room. And that's when he saw them. 3 shadows in his room, lurking in the dark, standing close to the window. It took a minute for him to realize. Ron? Giles? His voice barely a croak. You guys scared the shit out of me, man. What is the matter? Is this a prank? Daniel tried to hide the shiver in his voice. His friends were drenched and their wet clothing clung to their bodies. They did not respond to any of his questions, but slowly they started moving towards him. Their faces were bloated, skin discolored, shrunken and wrinkled. And their eyes, they were glassy and bulged from their sockets. You all look gross. It's too early for Halloween, bro. He stammered as he stepped back. His heart was pounding. Drip, drip, drip. The incessant dripping from their clothes was filling the room bit by bit. And that's when he heard a faint whisper. He turned his head back to look at the puzzle. And what he saw made his blood freeze. The little boy's mouth was moving. You are the last piece, he stated. And then smiling deviously, he requested, won't you join us? Oh boy. That is spooky and sad. The boy got his revenge. But in real life, so many times people get away with this. And even if they are brought to justice, the lost member of the family cannot be replaced and that void can never be filled. A moment of madness. For what else would you call it? And so many lives are destroyed and changed forever. And that's why we say, please, please be responsible while driving. Okay. So now, moving on to our one question section. Last week I asked you, what does Nayi Aas New Hope mean to you? And the very first reply was from my star listener Vasudha ji. And she says, in these difficult times, New Hope means meeting your children and grandchildren, meeting your loved ones and friends, traveling to far-off destinations. New Hope also means a new dawn of progress in your life and nation, and a new hope for the poor and downtrodden. That is so touching, ma'am, and so absolutely right. And the second response came from Nirbhay Singh ji, for whom New Hope means the chance to finally speak to that person for whom he had written the poem Umeed, which was episode 44 for us, and to tell that person about his feelings from the day one to the present day. And he hopes that that person understands what he has not been able to put in words. And as for me, I just hope that we get through this the best we can and that this pandemic ends soon. And on that hopeful note, let's move on to the one question for this week. The puzzle that Daniel was making, did it have a rising sun or a setting sun? You can email your answers to shweta@shwetasbasket.com and you will find the email ID in the show notes as well. And we will announce the winner in the next episode. And people, do join me next Friday, where I will be reciting 2 beautiful poems written by author Richa Tilokani. And that brings me to the end of this episode, guys. Do subscribe to my website www.shwetasbasket.com so that you're always up to date with what's new in the basket. And stories and poems are not the only things. You will find book, movie and restaurant reviews in the basket too. And if you enjoyed this episode, then follow or like the podcast, share our episode on your timeline and tag us, and recommend us to your friends. Help us reach more people. Shweta's Basket is available on 18 different platforms like Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, Gaana, JioSaavn and others. We're also on YouTube. For the complete list, check out the show notes. And if you want to get in touch with me, I am on Facebook and Instagram, and my handle is Shweta's Basket. And guys, in this day and age, it's a good idea to have a website. So if you're thinking of having one, then listen on, because having a good-looking and professional website is just a click away. In the meantime, this is your host, Shweta Singh, signing off. Till we meet again on the air next Friday. Bye for now. Do you want to have a website of your own? Are you a writer, photographer, actor, makeup artist, hairstylist, or even a tutor, singer, painter, journalist, consultant? Or do you have your own cafe, restaurant, resort, holiday home, shop, small business, hospital, or even a blog, WordPress, or Blogspot account that you want to migrate to a good-looking website? Well, look no further. The geeks will help you, and you will find them in the Geeks Room at Artoons Inn. Just click on the link in the episode description. Yes, it's that simple to have a website. My website is hosted and managed by them. And want to know what I love about them? They are professional, customer pleasers, straight talkers, and very competently priced. So what are you waiting for? Your website is just a click away.